EA Interviews, episode 64.
Inspiration, transformation, success stories, and the imperfect action round. 7 days a week. Join Mario Ficini for today's Expert Authority Effect interview.
Welcome, Expert Authority World. I am super excited to bring to you today Gabe Aluisy from Private Club Radio. And he is an author, a speaker, trainer, and he helps private clubs all around the country get more members. Would you like more members for your club? He's going to share some of the ways he does this with you right after we thank our sponsor. Congratulations, you got started with your cell phone, and I welcome you to the live streaming game. Now you're comfortable on camera and going live regularly, but I caution you, don't get stuck in startup mode. This is why I stepped up my game with Wirecast Pro and advise you do too. Get your 30-day free trial at eainterviews.com/Wirecast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Gabe Aluisy. Gabe, how are you today?
Hey, Mario, it's great to be with you, man.
I am excited. I've been wanting to showcase you for a while, and I'm glad we can make it happen. So let's jump into it. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I've seen what you've been doing, and the world needs to know about you more as far as I'm concerned. So
you're very kind.
Tell us about how all this started. What inspired you to start your company?
Yeah, so I've always had a real passion for golf. My dad was a private club golf professional when he was younger, and so by the time I was growing up, he wasn't in the business anymore, but golf was still our thing. We'd go out golfing, and I loved to spend time with my dad out on the golf course. By the time I was in high school and things, all my friends had jobs at golf courses. They were the bag boys, or they cleaned the place, and some of the low end jobs at clubs. And I just always had a passion for it. And then when I started my own business, I really saw that there was a need that I could fill, because this industry, the golf and country club and hospitality industry, often I saw was lagging 5 to 10 years behind in terms of technology or best practices or things, especially having to do with marketing, which was my strong suit. And I started the business private club agency really to solve some of the problems that I saw out there in the industry.
So how do you really help the clubs get more members? Because I'm thinking of the Skyline Club here in Detroit, which I had my VIP book launch party at and have been going to for, I'm not this old, but over 10 years now. How do you really help them? Because I know with any business or club, whatever the case may be, it's how do we get more clients? How do we get more members? How do we get more students if it's a school? There's always this marketing and PR, and it's why I got into it. I love helping people, and it's one thing that every business needs. So what have you found are the biggest problems that the clubs are having, and how do you help them solve it?
Yeah, there's three major problems that I see in the club industry. Number one, there's a generational shift that's happening, right? So you've got a lot of clubs. I don't know if it's the case for the Skyline Club in particular, but a lot of especially golf clubs and clubs around the world. There's a much older demographic that's been a member of these clubs, and now they're starting to age out. And the generations coming behind them, the Gen Xers, the millennials, they've got a completely new set of wants and needs. And so clubs are really having to make a shift there. I'd say the second biggest thing is clubs historically have been thought of as like old boys clubs where the guys went and played golf. They left the kids and the wife at home. And again, I think the newer generations that are coming to be the new club members, they really want a family-friendly environment. They want the children to be taken care of, the wife to be taken care of. And to be honest, a lot of the ladies in the family are controlling the purse strings, as it will. So we've got to make sure that we create a product or a service that's appealing to the whole family. And then number three is clubs have just more competition than they've ever had. So before the economic downturn, they were building golf courses at an enormous rate. They were doing like a couple golf courses a day were popping up. And there was just so much competition, but not only competition from golf courses, but the level of expectation from the consumer and other things in town became competition. So like high-end restaurants or amusement parks. And really, I say that golf clubs aren't just in competition with other golf clubs. They're in competition with all the other entertainment options that are available to a family. So those are the three major problems. And we try to solve those problems, really make the club much more appealing to, again, the Gen Xers, the millennials, We're introducing a lot of digital marketing tactics, very high level tactics that weren't really seen in the club industry before, um, and just bringing kind of a fresh new approach to these clubs, and giving them some advice along the way. We take a real consultative approach when we help some of these clubs out there.
Well, I'm happy to hear that, and that's one of the things I noticed about you is you actually have the heart to wanna do it. You're not just doing it for the numbers and saying, "Hey, we wanna get X amount ROI and increase," but, I mean, that's all well and good. You need to know your metrics and everything, but I know you definitely have the heart, and I'm glad you're taking it to that degree with them. What have you been finding is working really well with the digital marketing that you're doing with it? Because I mean, it's hard to believe, but it wasn't too long ago when iPhones didn't even exist and
Yeah,
the
it's
smartphone,
true.
I mean, cell phones didn't even exist and everything, but golf has been around for ages. What are you
Right.
finding now with the younger generations that do you find that they're still even wanting to go to the clubs and do stuff in real life just as much, or do you think it's more of a digital society? How are you bridging that gap to say, hey, look, this is going to give you some fun time with your family or alone or whatever the case may be, but pulling them away from those other types of entertainment because, I mean, truthfully, you can spend 24 hours on YouTube now.
Yeah, no, it's true. I think we one of the big major things is we want people to tell the story of the club, and so we've got to create an experience that I call is Instagrammable. So that's really a major portion. I like to say to my clients that if you're not being talked about online, it's like you don't even exist anymore. It's like the old analogy that when the tree in the forest falls and nobody hears it, is it even there? Well, it's the same way online. Like if people aren't saying nice things about you online, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook or on Google or any of the review sites out there, um, that's really a dangerous place to be. So the other thing about the private club industry that's interesting is that historically it was only membership by referral. And so again, this is a real brave new world for them because for the first time they've really got to quote unquote market themselves. um, and there's a lot of misinformation about what you can and cannot say. A lot of these clubs are 501c7 nonprofits, and there's a whole bunch of legalities and stipulations that go along with that. And so we're trying to help them navigate this new digital world that's completely different, nothing like it's ever been there before. Now, some of the ways that are really working for us right now, Facebook and Instagram, we're running ad campaigns, pay-per-click ad campaigns that are driving tons and tons of leads to these clubs. Our clubs average 30 to 60 membership leads a month, which, if you were to poll most clubs, I'm sure they're not anywhere near that rate. And we're able to drive the right eyeballs, again, that next generation of potential members to these clubs using those platforms. We're also, um, as you said before, I've always got my clients' best interests in mind, and so I recommend a lot of best practices that we don't necessarily make money on for the business, but I think that information is really important for people to know in the industry, and whether they're my clients or not, even in fact. So, for instance, right now with Google, I tell people, you don't need to invest in SEO, and pay an SEO expert like you used to have to. Now, if you focus on the reviews and again, what people are talking about and saying about you online, if you were to do any kind of Google search right now or even a Bing search, the first results that come up are map results. So it's so important to get your members, again, telling the story of your club. So, if clubs would start to shift away from the old traditional marketing methods into these digital methods, that's how they're really going to attract that new generation.
That is such a value add, and I know it works because I've done it with my clients, and a lot of people don't realize it. The customer testimonial is one of the things I recommend. Well, because
Yeah.
everything should be done on video as far as I'm concerned. Get video testimonials because
Yeah.
I've heard
Right.
people say, well, they probably just had someone write that or they paid for it. It's like you get someone on video, like right now, no one's going to refute that this is actually happening and it's actually us. But if it was text, maybe they will or won't. I think your reputation and name ultimately, if they trust you, they're going to trust you. If they don't, well, you need to fix that first and foremost and be a better person. But the video adds a different level of it to it. For anyone who
Great point.
doesn't know, can you speak more on the nonprofit status? You said 507.
Yeah, 501(c)(7. It's an
Yes.
interesting designation. So, and basically it provides a lot of tax benefits to private clubs because they have big swaths of land. Let's say you've got a golf course and you've got 100 acres of land or more. There's a lot of tax benefits that go around with that status. So, the little caveat is that you cannot have membership open to anybody, or you cannot market your membership to just anybody out there. It's got to be membership by invitation, and you've got to be really careful about the things you say when you market. So it's interesting. That's why I've kind of really studied this niche. It's a very interesting one because there's legality issues involved. It's kind of cool.
Well, that is a lot of fun because I've seen some of the pictures you share, and just with a lot of my family are into golfing, and a couple of them live on golf courses, and it's
Nice.
gorgeous. It's a lot of fun, and it is easy to get good pictures. Everyone, it's definitely better than the bathroom selfie or whatever in the mirror, which doesn't make any sense to me because cameras now have rear cameras, and that
Right.
whole thing has been outdated by about 10 to 12 or 14 years. Just saying.
That's
But at the
funny.
same time, it's like, how do I get a better shot? Well, go to somewhere better. It's
Mm,
real hard to get a bad shot when you're on the lake or a golf course.
that's right. There's beautiful landscapes to be had everywhere.
So with all the golf courses you've been to, I'll save that one for later on, but what's the biggest transformational story you've been able to give someone for one of the clubs? Whether you
Uh,
use their name or not, I don't know the legality of that, but where
sure.
did you take them from and where did you take them to?
Well, I know you're in Michigan, so I'll use a club up in Michigan that we worked with last year. This was a club just outside of Flint, very economically depressed area. Obviously, not a
Not the best
huge,
water in the world.
not the best water in the world. That's an understatement. But obviously having some challenges in that part of the world, and so I was really proud of that one in particular because I think we drove 96 new members in the first year that we worked with them, and again in a real small market, that was a big win. And it was a great club to begin with, and it just really needed folks to learn more about it. They'd never done hardly any marketing before, never mind like digital marketing. And so it was really interesting because people in the neighboring towns and clubs would actually start asking them, like, what is going on over here? In fact, I think they had a board member from a neighboring club come join their club because of the excitement that they felt just by seeing them online. It was kind of cool. So 96 new members, that was a real win.
That's huge. That's a great story. When
Yeah,
when you start having other people, your competitors come to you,
yeah,
that's a good
that's right.
story.
Yeah, and the way we did that, I mean, we did a digital marketing campaign. We also activated the local real estate professionals. So we created an incentive program that the real estate professionals could give at closing, that invited people to come have a round of golf or sandwich and some lunch at the club. And then the realtors got an incentive too if that member joined. And so it was nice to actually have a sales team on the street working for the club. And we did a couple other things. We created a new member passport where when you join the club, you get to experience all the different areas of the club, and that serves a big hole because the time to really make sure that you keep your members is in the beginning. They've got to really get connected to the people in the club in the beginning for you to have the best chance of retaining them, because it's 10 times more expensive in any business to get a new customer, and in our case a new member, than it is to keep the one you've got. And so a program like that for member retention was really important as well.
I'm glad you mentioned that because so many people are like, how do we get more? How do we get more? I go, are you helping the people you already have the best you possibly can?
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Why do you want 100 new ones when these 10 are agitated?
That's right. Yeah, I read a great book. I mean, you've got a few different levers as a business owner or as a business to pull. I mean, you can get new customers, you can have a bigger ticket item or a bigger shopping cart, or you can just take better care of the ones you've got. And that's what I decided to stick with.
Yeah, you and me both. So I'm glad you're like that because, again, there's not everyone out there who is. So thank you for being you.
Oh, well, thank you.
And thank you for sharing the transformational story. That's inspiring, and I got to be honest, that sandwich sounds good too. So, with all the different clubs, and I mean, do you work with any international?
I've worked at the club in Wales, Radar, and then I've spoken in around the world, and so I've gotten a chance to, um, talk to some of these clubs in Asia, in Europe, and in other places. So it's really fun.
That's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
as far as your private club radio goes, tell me about your podcast. What has that done for your business over the years?
I'd say that was the single biggest driver of my business in the last 5 years of being in business by far, because it did a number of things. First, it established a platform for me that I didn't really have. So even though I was working in this space, working in the private club world, not many people outside of my local market really knew who I was. And so the podcast, I mean, has now been listened to, I think, by 120, 140 countries or something like that. Um, and well over like 5 people per club. If you were to break down, how many private clubs there are and how many listeners of the show have heard the show. So pretty much everyone at this point in the club industry heard the show. And it was cool because a podcast didn't exist in this space before when I started the show. So I got kind of lucky. The timing was right in a way, or blessed, however you want to consider it. But the timing was right. And the reason I named my show Private Club Radio Show is because people didn't even know what a podcast was. So I literally had to kind of make it really simple for people to kind of understand what the heck I was doing. So it's just been amazing. I mean, it continues to drive inbound leads to my agency. And if you hear my show, I'm not even promoting my own services, but I'm just the expert on that show every week. I make sure I have a show every single Monday, and people love to hear the guests that we bring on and learn from them. And so vicariously, leads flow through to my business. And then establishing that platform, now I had an audience. It led to books, it led to speaking engagements. I've gone really all over the world now, and it's really cool, all because of the podcast.
That's inspiring.
Yeah.
That's really inspiring because before I started my show, I was given the vision, and my goal is to inspire millions of people and exponentially elevate the identity of humanity and help them and grow their business. And I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm still, let's say, learning.
I love that mission statement, though. Do you have that written down anywhere?
Yeah, in my head.
Okay.
I'm going to print it off and put it on the wall, but
there you go. Yeah.
Seriously,
cool.
That's my goal with it. And I'm just grateful because even now, I'm like right now in this moment, I'm going, this was my goal 4, 5, 6 months ago. And when you're telling me these stories, and for anyone listening, it's definitely possible. It's not going to be overnight. It's going to be more work than you thought, but listen to what Gabe's saying. It's taken me all around the world and led to all these great things, and you're not even talking about your business.
Right. Yeah. Well, just helping people, which is fun. But it's really about consistency, consistently showing up. I've done the show now from the back of a taxi cab in Thailand. I've done the show from China. I've done the show when I had the flu before a hurricane. But people know that every single Monday my show is going to be there. And that's a direct reflection of how I run my business, because if I'm there for them every single Monday, of course, I'll be there for them as a vendor or somebody who provides a service for their club.
They know you're going to show up.
That's right. Yep.
That's huge.
And if you put in that work, people will recognize that, I think.
Yeah, when they know they can count on you and you're actually going to help them out with all of that. I mean,
right.
And that's what I keep hearing. What's the secret? Be accountable, be respectable, and be a good person, and the business is going to follow it. Because some people say you need to add. I love it when the people going, "What's the best day for an email?" Well, Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. and Thursday at 4. Really? That's the secret? You don't think like 400 million businesses would have just skyrocketed following that? And I've been monitoring my own inbox because I've been shifting so I can stay focused on the show. The lists, it's not that I'm unsubscribing necessarily. Some of them I am, but I'm shifting them all to a new box so I don't miss anything show related because I'm fully committed to this. And it's interesting. It's like 9:36. Oh, must be Thursday. And they're all at the same time. So
one guru gave the advice. That's right.
That's a whole show in and of itself. And I know you know where I'm going with that, but let's talk about your book. How has that helped your business?
I've got 3 books now, and they've exponentially helped the business. Absolutely. So, first book I wrote was really just to get something out of my head about branding that I always wanted to share with people. Just my philosophy on branding. It wasn't really related to the golf industry per se, although I think a lot of the lessons are applicable in the golf industry just as much as they are to entrepreneurs or businesses in general. But it just that again just gave me credibility. That first book gave me credibility that, hey, this guy's an author. He's got something to say. And if you read the book, I think it was a pretty decent job, and it had some great lessons in there. And a lot of people just enjoyed me giving them some, that knowledge. Then book number 2 really sprung from the podcast. So again, having the platform of the podcast, I knew that people really, just talking to people on my show, having the guests, I knew that, again, there was a hole that I could fill in terms of education and marketing. And so I wrote the definitive guide to membership marketing, which became the guide that 1 out of every 3 clubs in the country uses to build their membership and marketing. So that was just like crazy. I never expected that particular book would catch fire. And then I just released my most recent book 2 months ago with a great author who, to be quite frank with you, did the lion's share of the work, Michael Crandall. CNG. That CNG stands for Certified Nice Guy, and he absolutely is. But it's called The ABCs of Plutonium Private Club Leadership, and that book is more about the management side of how being a leader, of how to manage a team, and of how to run a club and steer the ship in the right direction. And that one, we sold out the first 2 print runs of that, again because of the show, because Michael's also just an amazing guy. But the books continue to really just amaze me. Like it's amazing that people want to read what I have to say sometimes.
Well, that's the fun of doing them. I remember when I did my first one, I was like, I failed English 7 times.
Did you really?
Now I'm gonna write a book, let alone a bestseller. I'm like, right. But
congratulations.
Thank you. The fun thing is that there's still people who told me prior to that one 7+ years ago, I'm gonna do one.
Wow.
Well, I did one.
That's
done
awesome.
multiple, but there, if you don't implement any of this, it's for naught, basically.
Yeah.
Let's tell everyone right now where they can find your books.
Yeah. So the definitive guide to membership marketing, you can find at membershipmarketingbook.com. And the ABCs of Plutonium Private Club Leadership, you can find that at plutonium.club.
I love that. You've done this just once or twice, because most people are like, oh, you can go to Barnes and Narns and Noble and go to it's like, no, you actually have a URL. I tell my clients the same thing. That's awesome.
Yeah, and you can download free samples of the book so you can see if you like it. Try before you buy.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to do something fun. I just started doing, I'm calling it the entrepreneurial roller coaster, where I spin the imaginary wheel here, and I have about a dozen different questions on it, all from a 1 to 10 of seriousness, like how would you change the world versus who's a cool actor you'd like to talk to. So where are you feeling today on a 1 to 10?
What am I feeling? Oh, I'm feeling a 10 today. Absolutely.
Okay.
You just chugged a power drink, so I bet you've gotten under 10 as well.
If you want to go 10, we'll go 10. We'll go 10. Who is the one person you'd love to have a conversation with again that you're no longer able to?
Ooh, my mother. So my mom died when I was 13. I'd love to have that one more moment with her for sure.
Sorry to hear that, but I can relate.
No.
With my dad.
Yeah, it's tough to lose a parent, I know.
2 years ago, just Good Friday.
Wow. Yeah. Gosh,
so that's fun every year.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that.
But yeah, okay, you went for 10. All right. That means I might ask you a bonus one. Some people are like, holy crap, what are you going to ask? So I have a few softball ones too, with actors and stuff. But all right, we're going to go to the imperfect action round, and right after we thank our sponsor. You wouldn't dare roll up to a meeting unprepared in your pajamas with bad lighting, all blurry-eyed, so why do you think it's acceptable to do the equivalent on camera, with even more people watching from around the world? Don't get stuck in startup mode. You know it's time to step up your game, but how? I advise to all my clients Wirecast Pro for their professional productions, and it's why I use it, and advise you do as well. Get your 30-day free trial today at eainterviews.com/Wirecast and start your next live stream with the studio look and feel your brand demands so your audience can focus on what's most important, your content. Remember, it's not just a video, it's your business. So if you want to actually profit from your production, .com/Wirecast. Once again, that's eainterviews.com/Wirecast. And we are back with the imperfect action round. Gabe, are you ready to take imperfect action?
Let's do it. I have no idea what that means, but I'll do it.
You do it every day. You have a successful business and all your shows and books.
Yeah, I have taken a lot of imperfect actions too. I guess I've made a lot of mistakes along the way.
That's a good start. That's a good middle, and that's how we're all going to finish.
Okay, let's do it.
First question: what, in your experience, is the fastest path to the cash?
Well, I would say is to not worry about the cash. Honestly, it's to focus on the client or the customer, whatever you call those folks in your world, but to really try to understand their needs. Because if you're going to build a successful business, it's really not about you. It's about solving someone else's challenge. And so diving really deep into what that person's challenge is. The first way that I do that is I create an app, what marketers call an avatar, but it's basically like a customer profile. And I really think about that person's day. What does that day look like? What's getting in the way? What could they use? And if I concentrate on the customer first or the client first, then all that other good stuff will come at me, I know, in the end.
Excellent. Number 2, what is the biggest problem you see your prospects making, and what's the fastest way they can fix it?
I think the biggest problem I see is that a lot of clubs are discounting. And when you discount, you lower the value of that brand irreparably. So you've just set a new lower bar when you create a 25% off discount or something like that. So the way I fix that is I try to elevate the brand value. I try to showcase the story and the history and the tradition of my clients so that it's irresistible to people because they want to be a part of that story.
I love that. Always add value, don't lower the price.
That's right. Yep.
Number 3, how do you maximize customer lifetime value? Or in your case, your client.
Sure.
I was going to say members, but how do you maximize your... Let me ask you 2-part. How do you maximize your client lifetime value, and how do you do it for the members of the club, for your clients?
Well, for me, in fact, I'll give you an example. We launched an initiative this year with my team of just finding ways that we could do something unexpected, surprise and delight our own clients. And it serves a few purposes, right? It keeps us at the top of their mind because when they get something from us, so I'll give you a couple examples. We gave people, well, I'll let you in on something we're about to do. We're creating little notepads, personalized notepads for each of our best clients, and we're going to mail them to them. Just so they have something nice on their desk. We've created like event calendars that we just emailed to our clients so they know about all the events that are happening that they might want to put programs together in their clubs for. So it's basically touching your clients in unique, unexpected ways. I think that's one way for them to stay for you to stay top of mind with them, which again in turn will lead to a longer client, which hopefully that leads to the higher customer value, obviously. Now for our own clients, in terms of how they add more to their members, it's again from the consultative approach, showing them strategies that I've learned. Because we honestly don't have to even reinvent the wheel, but I do a lot of learning from all the visits that I take around the country and around the world, and just taking those ideas back into the clubs so that they can repurpose those for their members with more exciting events, more exciting promotions or amenities and things like that.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Books. What is a book you would recommend that's made the biggest impact on your life?
Oh man, there's a ton of books that I love. I love all the Malcolm Gladwell books. So Blink was probably my favorite book by him. I'm also, if you go into the fiction world, I love Ernest Hemingway's writing. I think that's just he's just a great storyteller, and telling a great story again, even as a business owner, that's such an important thing to do. And then I recently read a great book called Breeding Gazelles, and it was great for my business because I've had this kind of certain level of business now for, I don't know, the last 3 years or so, and to really break into that next level, this book is great in terms of the core lesson is that in order to get better results, you really got to change your thinking. So when you're a business that's maybe in the, $500,000 to $1 million range, is completely different thinking than the businesses that are doing 10 million, and a completely different thinking than a business that does 100 million. And so there's some pretty interesting strategies in that book, Breeding Gazelles.
Excellent. I will make sure that makes it into the show notes. That's a great recommendation because a lot of people don't realize that they think the thinking that got them there will get them where they want to go, and it won't. You have to change
Right.
it, like you're saying.
Yep, you have to have a whole new skill set. And so I've been learning a lot this year in terms of learning some CEO skills as I'm trying to scale my business.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So, as far as the storytelling, when you were saying Ernest Hemingway, let's touch on that real quick about why you feel it's so important to be a good storyteller with a business, even if you're not a writer, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it's because, just as humans, our entire history, from the days we sat around at campfires listening to the chief, stories have been a really important part of human history. And it's a way of breaking through that critical barrier that people have in their minds of, hey, I don't want to be sold to. But we want to learn, and we want to hear a story, and we want to be compelled. And we want to be part of the story in the end. And so I think that it's probably the most powerful and most underutilized tool that a brand has. Again, whether you're a golf club or any company out there, but telling a story. And if you look at most stories, they have a very similar narrative arc. You've got the hero's journey, for instance, is one narrative arc you could Google, and you got to have something that you're striving for. You got to have some horrible circumstance that happens or some challenge that needs to be overcome, and you've got to overcome that. And if you look at some of the, there's only 3 to 10, I don't know, story arcs that are very pervasive in our culture, and it's a shortcut again to getting past that resistance to the sale. And so I think that the other part is, as we become more social, as we come online, we're looking to do business with the human side of business, right? Rather than just the corporate brand. People are wanting to interact with people or with stories, and that's why I think it's so important.
Thank you for sharing that with us because I'll have to see if I can find the name of the book, but there is a book that talks about the 7 different. There's only really 7 stories.
7? Yeah.
There's
I knew it was between 3 and 10.
Yeah, the name is eluding me at the moment, but
Yeah.
I mean, when you can narrow everything down into this or that and help you, because you can joke about the sales and the marketing, but unfortunately, the truth is, if you don't ever get it right, you're going to struggle as an entrepreneur. And I see so many people that have these great gifts, talents, and abilities, but that's because of their skill set. When you're trying to do it as a business, it's a whole other ballgame. You might be the best whatever it is in the world, but if you can't sell it, market it, and still be around 5 years from now, it's a whole other ballgame because that's what someone else was doing before you prior that now you're responsible for. So
there's a huge difference in perception. You don't ever want to be commoditized as a brand. And the example that I love to give is Timex and Rolex. A Timex technically tells much more accurate time than a Rolex. A Timex is never wrong other than when the battery fails, whereas a Rolex is off 1 to 3 seconds every single day. But why do people buy a Rolex instead of a Timex? It's because of the story. It's because of the prestige that goes along with it. But that prestige was really all wrapped into the story that brand told of the tradition and the passion and the things that go into a Rolex. And so again, if you don't want to be in a red ocean or be thought of as a commodity, it doesn't matter how good you are. You've got to tell a compelling story that people want to be a part of.
That is powerful. We could do a whole half-day training on this. Maybe we should, but I want to say thanks for sharing with us for now, and this has been very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario.
Where can people find you?
Probably easiest is my crazy last name, Aluisy.com, which is ALUISY.com. You've got all my podcasts there, the books, speaking tours that I'm on, and all that kind of good stuff.
Excellent. I'll make sure that's in your show notes for the episode here. And Gabe, thanks again. It's been a real pleasure. I'm glad you were able to come on.
Thank you, Mario, and thank you for doing this show. It's really important. It's going to change a lot of lives.
All right, Expert Authority World, we got another great one. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. God bless. Congratulations, you got started with your cell phone, and I welcome you to the live streaming game. Now you're comfortable on camera and going live regularly, but I caution you, don't get stuck in startup mode. This is why I stepped up my game with Wirecast Pro and advise you do too. Get your 30-day free trial at eainterviews.com/Wirecast.